kapayapaan, harmonia. मुझे प्रेम मेरे द्वार आत्मा
Une doar kecilnya sini
Bondro hati nakraku makabra Udoru garen ecisi ziralu Amor vaziar
আমি আমার মনো আশাকে ভালোবাসি
Ik hou van alle mensen.
Sagitoen e quamio vigitoen Ai heiwa so shite chowa
Aloha. Well, hello. As I have just raced in, this is what a day this has been, and I hope it's going to be what a night this will be. I am here. Who am I? I'm Russell Fox, otherwise known as Russ, and I am in Sedona, Arizona. And let me just click a different view here so I can just see what I need to see. Okay, and okay, that's good. Well, we're in for I was going to say we're in for a treat. I hope you're in for a treat. I know you're in for a treat because Aliel and I have known each other for nearly 40 years at this point, and there's something that binds us together that besides a slight case of sometimes insanity, we are bound together by a huge love and appreciation for what we have come to know as SHEN Therapy. And this is going to be an interesting time. I just really want to welcome all of you here, and let me see who we've got. As a matter of fact, I want to throw it into gallery view. And Terry, great to see you here. Beth Hawkins, you're not only here in Sedona, but you're about 3 rooms away, right? In the same building. Cynthia, good to see you. Where are you from, Cynthia?
From Tucson, Arizona.
From Tucson? You're just down the road.
That's right.
I have a sense we have things to talk about. What do you think?
We do.
Yeah. Holly, the master of all things tech, is our hostess tonight. And we appreciate all the work that you and Paula Dodge are doing to keep us alive and well. Sharon, I don't know where you're from, but you can unmute yourself and let us know.
I'm from Portland also.
Portland also. Wonderful. Excellent. I call him Master Terry, but he refuses to be called Master, and I understand that politeness. But Terry McGill, I don't know how to say this any other way. I really love and appreciate you. You've been a huge blessing in my life. So we'll just leave it at that. Rebecca, do I know you?
This is my first time, and I was in the Bay Area. Now I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I hope some of you have some knowledge of what Tao is all about, but this was open to everybody. And so we have no idea what your backgrounds are. We trust that you are at least interested in what the title suggested we're going to talk about tonight, and that is a conscious connection to healing and wholeness. Now, with that, one could talk about almost anything, but I would like to, first of all, before we do any kind of talking, there are some steps we want to take. Eliel, first of all, let me turn it over to you and have you say hello, please.
Hello, I'm Eliel Kinder. I'm in Vancouver, Washington, and just in awe at the miracle of technology that enables us to talk around the world. And I'll be presenting along with Russ some of the things that we found over the, for me now, close to 70 years of listening to both guidance, nature, and learning to listen to the Tao. So one of the things that we do since, well, Russ, you had said it even better. Would you go ahead and introduce what we're about to do?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. For the last nearly 40 years for me and 30 years for Eliel, we're both SHEN practitioners. I'm also a SHEN instructor. And that simply means that we have the great privilege of introducing to the world something that I will spend some time on after we take care of some formalities. But it's been so interesting to Eliel and I that the deeper that we connect ourselves with Master Sha, some of you know who he is, some of you may not. Master Sha is a truly gifted man and a gift to mankind, in that his background is Chinese. He's an expert in so many things. We would call him a polymath, because he is a grand master in Qigong, grand master in Tai Chi, he's a grand master in calligraphy. He is a Western medical doctor. He is a traditional Chinese medical doctor. The list goes on and on. He's an author of multiple best-selling books in the New York Times list. One could really spend the whole night just talking about his accolades. But as we have gotten closer and closer to understanding through his work, and that also of Dr. Rulin Xu, and the whole presentation of Tao Hands, Tao science, bringing ancient wisdom into the world today related to what we really are, who we really are, how things really operate, what we're finding is that what Eliel and I have been doing for the last 40 years is kind of finding a synergy and a hand in glove relationship with everything that we're learning, with new insights that just enrich the work that we are doing. And we so look forward to continuing in the Tao world also. But this Friday night, this is when we kind of take off the formal hat of Tao and say, this is what we also do. But in our case, what we also do is so hand in glove with the Tao that most everybody who's tuned in understands, that you should find this very comfortable with what we're about to jump into. Eliel, I don't want to take too much more time. Go for it.
All right, then. We like to begin with an invocation, a saying hello to both the outer souls and the inner souls. And I'll be explaining what that means in a moment. But for now, just wherever you are, see if you need to shift, make yourself a little more comfortable. Check and see that your spine is comfortable. It's not resting against something, but it is back from away from a chair or away from a sofa, so that the energy can flow freely. And locate your feet on the floor by feeling. You might want to wiggle your toes. You might want to lift your heel and put it down. You might want to gently kind of rotate or rub your feet against the ground that you're on. there are acupuncture points within our feet. And more than that, our feet are a portal. They receive energy from the earth. And one day I'll do the exercise with you all of audition plantar, listening to spirit through the soles of your feet, which is something I learned back before I was 20 years old in a mystery school. All right, so let your eyes gently close and allow yourself to become aware of your breathing. Notice when you inhale that your breath can travel in through your nose and down into your torso. And if you would put one hand, your right hand, put the palm over your navel and put your left hand over your heart. All right, and we're going to say hello. Dear our source, dear Tao, dear all of the light beings on heaven and earth, ascended masters and angels and archangels, spiritual animals, and the spiritual plants, minerals, Mother Earth, all of our spiritual fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers, and all of the planets and stars and galaxies beyond count. We love you. We honor you. We appreciate you. We ask that you come to each and every one of us united here in connection and help us to open our listening and our wisdom so that whatever it is that we can receive today will further our love and our light and our peace and our relationships and anything and everything that is appropriate for us. Thank you. And now we're going to say hello to our inner souls. Every part of us is alive. Every part of us has a soul. Our cells, each one of them has a soul, each of our organs and our tissues, our heart and our chakras, which are also known by the name of energy centers or soul houses. So as you breathe, take the opportunity to say hello to all of your inner souls. And we use the Chinese term Shen, Qi, and Jing, which is, for those who aren't familiar, that's a whole nother teaching. But Shen, Qi, Jing covers our soul, heart, mind, our energy, and our body. So dear our soul, dear our Shen, Qi, Jing, we love you. We appreciate you. We honor you. You have the ability to heal and to learn and to grow and to be in joy. Do a great job. Thank you. Okay, Russ, I'm going to turn it back to you. While we're waiting for technology to catch
I'm
up,
going
there
to
we go.
attempt to share my screen. I think I can do this.
There you go.
But
You're on.
bear with, I'm on, am I not? Okay. Let's see here. Here we go.
It's working.
And hopefully you can move the little side pictures away and see what's on the screen. One of the reasons that we opted to do tonight is that about every month, sometimes that's every 2 months, I have the great pleasure of going to Portland, Oregon and seeing a whole raft of clients there for SHEN Therapy. And it's interesting for me that this is going to be the first time I'm actually going to be driving up rather than taking a flight. And so it'll be very energizing going through the mountains and all of that. So as I am going to be there, I'm going to be giving my time, my energies, Aliel will also, to assist people through a layer of their being that usually doesn't get talked about. We talk around it. Our society doesn't really want to deal with this whole thing that we call emotions. Now, soon as I say that word, however many people we have on this, you all have a different concept of what that is. But basically, you do know that emotions are something you feel. And now this is an interesting conundrum. We assist people to actually discover the glorious benefits that lie within what some people call negative information, what others might call trauma, which other people might call judgments that we put on ourselves. We're going to explore some of those concepts tonight and see how they relate to you as an individual and to Tao as a community of believers and a community of those who have decided that life as we know it is probably richer than we're experiencing it. Okay, so it's life that we don't know is probably richer than the life that we do know. I do want to let you know that Aliel and I will both be available during that week from the 21st to the 27th. And I would so love to see you and to assist you. Well, assist you with what? Let's move along here. In our, let's see here. Sorry, folks. Let me bring it back up. You know, it's not going to work for me, is it? Let me just do it this way. You get to see this. It's like looking backstage during the performance, but that's okay. At least you can see it. In SHEN, we are trying to bring together both ancient wisdom and modern science. You might be interested that the SHEN has been around since the late 70s when an American scientist, Richard Pacfic, was trying to disprove the entire concept of subtle energies. Well, in trying to disprove it as a scientist, he realized, oh my goodness, there's something here. I guess I'm going to have to change my mind. And he spent the next several years in university labs, in hospitals, in mental health facilities, trying to understand what is this thing that he began to experience. He was in a workshop that he was going to go in and kind of expose them, right? And he was going to experience subtle energies. And as he was asked to work with a client, he began to feel something in his arms. The client started to cry. Then she started to laugh. And the next day she came up to him and thanked him and said, you know what? I don't know what you did, but it feels like I just got reborn. What was that? Well, he had no answers. And so as a scientist, an aeronautical engineer, a chemist, he's, again, one of those polymath scientists specializing in so many things. He realized that the concept of chakras has a scientific basis. And so as we look at a little bit of that tonight, he said, this can't be the first time anyone's discovered it. What's the ancients? What did the ancients say? What is it all about? Is there such a thing of understanding energy? Well, he looked back into ancient Egypt first and found the term SHEN. It is a hieroglyph, and you'll see it in lots of tombs and ancient carvings and paintings from ancient Egypt. And it's that circle sitting on a line. And it simply means the totality of everything. One of the iterations of it you've seen is like the sun sitting on a set of eagle wings. It's again a circle sitting on basically a straight line. So, and the totality of everything between circle, straight line, that's it. It also symbolized the sun for the sun worshipers of ancient Egypt. From the Chinese calligraphy, this calligraphy actually is a picture of a stylized picture of both on the right hand, you see a lantern because it gives light. It shows the way. It lets us know what actually is. It creates light where there was darkness. So anciently and currently, it has always been associated with at least three concepts, and actually more, but soul, as a lot of us come to understand it, is one, and that would be our spirit, the divine consciousness, our higher self, the source of all. Now, I'm trying to frame my words so that all of us, despite our varied backgrounds, might understand. So if I say something and give it a meaning, please understand that tonight I can't give you the entire Master Sha explanation about everything, but you'll see the connections. The second part of this concept is the Chinese concept of Shen is heart, which is our emotions. Now, if soul has the source of everything, it's like the heart is the receiver of everything. And boy, do we feel it. Sometimes it feels good, sometimes it does not feel so good. But mind then has to deal with it. It has to process all of these perceptions that we get, and it has to perceive. It has to make sense of. At least the ego thinks it has to make sense of it. But in Chinese, the concept of Shen combines all of these. Now, if all of these were in sync, would that not be an entirely different sense of living? Whereas our mind is trying to make sense of our emotions, but nobody really understands the emotions, they think. And by the way, do we really have a higher self? Do we really have consciousness? People forever have been asking these things. And the answer is, of course, yes. But this Chinese concept of Shen combines all of those. Now, Aliel and I have really decided that the best symbol that we can even think of for Shen would be this. And that is the combination of the ancient Egyptian and the ancient Chinese brought together as a single concept. Now, what in the world are we doing for that week in Portland? What have I been doing for 40 years? Well, here it is all displayed. It's not coming out individually like I had hoped, but that's okay. I'll learn how to do this online. But Shen therapy is called physio-emotional release. And that suggests something. That suggests that it's not only am I working on the physical aspect of myself, but I'm working on the emotional aspect. And is there contraction in my body? Yes. Do I like it? No. Does it adversely affect me? Yes. So what do we do about that? Well, first of all, let me talk about something, and you'll just have to listen to me and don't get lost too much in reading the text. I will follow through. There is a process. Has anyone here ever broken your arm or broken your leg? Sorry to bring back difficult memories, but there's an interesting thing that happens, and that is this. The body has this natural response to pain, and that is that it contracts, and it contracts concentrically around that pain. We call it autocontractile pain reflex. And if you broke your arm, I bring this up because suddenly all the soft tissue around the break begins to get rigid. And we say, oh, the body, it's so wise. It's preventing further damage by becoming its own splint. We even call it the splinting reflex. But autocontractile pain reflex is that. It happens not because the body is so wise. It happens because we're hardwired that way. Any pain causes us to contract. Why? What's going on? Well, you'll find that in the next word, hands-on biofield chi therapy. We need to just spend a moment on that term, biofield. These days, if you looked up biofield online, you're going to find it has so many meanings now. And like Richard in the original, trying to say what's really going on, where did the term biofield come from? Well, in 1992, Richard Pacfic, the very same scientist, he was chairing a committee for the National Institutes of Health, and they were looking at field therapies, energy work, to put it plainly, Reiki, therapeutic touch, the list goes on. Well, he, as a scientist and the developer of SHEN therapy, was asked to chair that National Institute of Health committee. They realized that this thing, energy, is probably a terrible word, honestly, because it's the potential to do work, but everything that we don't understand, we just simply throw on the label energy. And so they wanted to come up with a term that would suggest something very real. Number one, yes, we are all vibrational fields. All of us are a series of fields which interact and work together. The Chinese and Japanese have looked at them as we look at them organized on the fronts of our bodies as lotuses. We call them chakras. We call them energy centers. We call them soul houses. Call them what you will. Science backs up the fact that they do exist. And that they're not just fields of energy, but they are bioeffective is the term. It means changes in that field actually cause our tissues to change. If the field gets dense and slow, the body senses it as pain. It doesn't know the difference between energetic internal pain or it's coming from the outside, someone pokes you and you wrap around it. It's sensed as pain, it contracts the body. So, and when the field can get energized and move, there's more chi flowing. Some of you understand this very well. Then the tissues relax. They become more healthy. Metabolism can increase. All the benefits of healing can be sped up, whereas contraction slows everything down. So I'm going to make a long story very short here because I don't want to take all the time. And that is that if I asked each one of you, would you please just put your hand on that location where you feel sadness and grief and mourning? Where is that? Yeah. If you're human, you have just put your hand on your chest. We all feel it as that crushing, gripping thing that grabs right to the center of our sternum, right there where our heart underneath is, in the middle between our lungs. Interestingly enough, there are no muscles that are concentric like that all go to the middle. But because the pain is here and then radiates out, the tissues all on them their own, contract towards that pain. If I asked you, where do you feel shame and guilt? Think about it. Put yourself back in that situation when you were 10 years old or 6 years old or whenever it was, and you were shamed, or you stole something and you then felt guilty. No, I didn't do it. He did it. You know, one of those. Where did you put your hand? Probably in what we would call your lower dantian, your belly, somewhere between the pubic bone and your navel, because that's where we grip in, and oh, that does not feel good. That does not feel good at all. The biofield is a series of donuts. Now, you can quote me on that. The biofield is a series of donuts. And what do I mean by this? Well, take a slinky and draw the ends around and create a visual donut, one that you can see through. Now, had my visuals been going the way they wanted to, you would realize that this donut, assuming that you have one in your chest, one in your solar plexus, one in your lower dantian, and actually each of your soul houses looks basically this shape. We call it a toroid. Now, planet Earth does this, and I'll show you that in an interesting way. Consider this donut, if you will, that the energy comes up through the middle, out to the outsides, and then down and back in through the middle. It's constantly coming forward, constantly progressing frontwards, right, to the front of our body, wraps around, re-enters at the back of our body. They're all that way. Now that's kind of interesting. But not only does it do that, but just like every weather system, just like so many other aspects that have a toroid, this is a toroid. It is the basic energy field of the universe. Most of our galaxies are toroids. The universe itself is thought to be a toroid. This up through the middle, around through the sides, and then back in through the back. But this toroid is also turning around. So it has a directional rotation to it, besides the inside to the outside. Now, you've all seen satellite pictures of a hurricane, have you not? It's all sitting there in the Atlantic Ocean and it's turning. And in the middle, you've got this clear spot, the eye of the storm. Well, and the closer you get to the eye of the storm, the greater the wind velocity in weather. Well, I just bring this up because this is the most common shape you can imagine when it comes to fields of energy in motion. Once again, 40 years of practical, clinical, both research and practice have proven that there is no doubt about this any longer. And case studies and all of this can be looked at. Well, if this field is gripped in some way, we call it shame if it's down in our gut. If for some reason we have experienced sadness as an energetic reality, our field responds. You have all walked into a room and felt, oh, something very sad has happened here. Or you get close to a person and you feel their anger, which would be at the solar plexus. The field has been contracted. SHEN therapy is that therapy that allows us to go in and reactivate this field, increase its rotational response back to norm. Why would we want to do that? And what happens? Well, Interestingly enough, when we get offended, when we get angry, or when we get sad, shamed, or we make judgments about ourselves, we tend to hold on to them because it doesn't feel good, and I kind of stop it before I allow it to complete. Pleasant emotions, what are they like? Well, I'm happy, I'm joyous, I feel confident, and all of those sorts of things. Well, they have the natural bell curve. They mount, they feel great, and then there's no reason to stop them. And so we allow them to dissipate. And now we're ready for the next thing. When it comes to uncomfortable qualities, it mounts and it mounts and it mounts, sadness, shame, fear. And then it gets to the point of, nope, don't want it. And we clamp down again. When in clamping down on it, we actually keep it alive. We keep it active, just subdued, to the point that most of you here are probably over 18 years old. Some of you are over 20, 30, 40. Some of us are over quite a bit more than that, and that's just fine. But even me at 76, what I find is that every once in a while, someone will say something and that gets me, whoa. And instantly there's a part of me that is 6 years old again. And I've just been made to feel foolish or something on the playground. And that portion of that field is still crimped in my biofield. And it still resonates, because I have not allowed that bell curve to complete. Some of you, are there any psychologists in the house? Because you probably have heard of Fritz Perls. Fritz Perls is the father of Gestalt therapy. And he said every emotion has a life cycle. And if an emotion has an event that starts it, and either whether good or bad, it's meant to have a life and then to dissipate. But if it's not allowed to be completed, it stays as an energetic waveform until we go back in to the original problem and allow it to dissipate and release, and so that our field can be restored to normal activity. There's a lady who wrote a book. I keep referring back to this, and every time I talk about SHEN, and that is this. She wrote a book that it's one of those books that all you need to read is the title. Her name is Carol Truman, and the title of her book is Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. Now that's profound, because what we end up doing is having a defense mechanism so that doesn't get tweaked again. Sometimes we get angry because that pushes back. Sometimes we just hide and we try to be nice. Sometimes we take on theories and, oh, this sounds good, that sounds good. It's the therapy of the week kind of thing, because it takes us away from dealing with the real nature of what's inside. Being an older person, let me give you a real, difficult but real, and you'll all understand it, a case. Two people married for 50 plus years. They've had a wonderful relationship, and one of them passes away. Well, the other one generally has a very short grieving period. No, it's fine. We talked about this. We knew this was going to happen. We had a wonderful life. I have nothing to be upset at, really, and pretty soon I'll join her. Do you know what the statistics are? That within 1 year, the surviving spouse is also passed away. Due to what? Pulmonary or cardiac problems. Why? Unexpressed sadness as a grip in the chest causes dysfunction of normal metabolism and muscular contractions and all the work that goes into breathing and the heart. Therefore, they die literally of a broken heart because they haven't dealt with the underlying contractive response known as sadness, grief, mourning. What we have been privileged to do is to assist people back into the fullness of their life by allowing them to go in. And I'm going to ask you to do this in a way that some of you will find familiar, because you've done this with Dr. Rulin in the Tao science way. Let me give you a way that we have been doing for the last 40 years that might be a little bit illuminating for you. And that is, if you would, again, just sit, relax, put your hands on your lap. It makes no difference, just so that you're very relaxed. If you would, just close your eyes and become conscious of the air that's going in and out of your nose. Ah, that feels good, feels cool. Bring your awareness to the fact that it goes in through your sinuses and then fills your head. Yes, your brains are still there, but for our purposes, allow it to feel like it just flows right through your brain and down into your spine. Breathe into your spine. Ah. Now, in your mind's eye, in the next breath, allow that spine to be a hollow, flexible tube that expands with every breath. In through the nose, through the head, down the neck, into this open tube of a spine. Allow yourself to breathe in and breathe out. This time into the solar plexus area, underneath your diaphragm, breathing in and out. And now all the way down into your lower belly, as the spine expands and fills the entire area with air, breathing in and then out. Now, as if each breath fills your torso, become aware of any area that did not want to expand quite as much. With this next breath, I'm going to ask you to please think of breathing in light, white light, gold light, yellow light, whatever light. Breathe in the light. Does it fill your torso? Or is there somewhere that doesn't quite want to be lit up? All right. Now, with your eyes still closed and a full awareness of this huge, open, wonderful space inside your torso, filled with light, retain that sense and open your eyes slowly. And with your eyes open, breathe into that space. What you have allowed yourselves to do to a certain degree is now, with your eyes open, you see the world from inside your torso, from your inner being, not through the chatter of your brain. The brain's a magnificent tool. The mind can chatter away and tell you all sorts of things, but it is also the seat of our ego and trying to make other people wrong for for the way we are, when in fact, we carry that within ourselves and we have the option of doing something about it. Through Dr. Shaw, through Dr. Master Shaw, we know wonderful things about Tao Hands, about saying hello to the soul of our various organs and body parts. And I can't go on and on, but most of you understand what I'm talking about. There are many gifts and treasures, but many of us, honestly, we're looking for a way out so we don't necessarily have to deal with the real painful stuff inside. Now, there are several people on this call tonight that have been on Aliel's SHEN table and on mine. And some of you have received both in-person SHEN, and you've also received remote SHEN. Yes, within Tao understanding, there is no space. There's no time. All is vibration. And with that understanding, it is very possible for me to work, say, on, oh, I'm just going to grab somebody. How about Paula Dodge? And it's possible to reach her. I have worked with I have family in Africa, some adopted sons and a brother living in Uganda. My brother in Uganda had a very serious problem last week. Very difficult getting a good medical assistance. I called on everything I knew, but I also did what I have done for 40 years, and that is work with SHEN, understanding that there is a flow. And if you work with the flow, everything works better and faster, including it helps us get out of the way so that our Tao hands and Tao blessings can also be more efficient and faster. So think of SHEN as an adjunct to the work that you already hold dear if you are a person who has followed the teachings of Dr. Master Shah and Dr. Rulin. May I also go over here to, am I still sharing my screen? I guess I'm not, but I'm going to do it. There I am. How do I do that? Part of the flow. I'm going to give you some secrets here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Aliel for an interesting thing on resonance, because all of this is resonance. It's all resonance. Our field vibrates according to what we experience. And if we carry it, it's going to get vibrated and we're going to feel it. How do we work with it? Well, part of the field, and one of those big donuts, if you will, also involves our hands. All of you have done this. Well, I feel something between my hands, and everywhere my hands are, I feel it. So I think, oh yes, there's a ball of energy between my hands. I definitely feel something. Well, here's just a little insight. It's a flow. It comes from one hand into the other, circles around, and then comes back in again. It's a constant flow. All of us have a direction. Most of us, it's right hand to left hand. It's just a simple reality. It's one of the donuts, and I will explain that at another time. But if I can use that part of my flow to stimulate this part, if I know what part is going what direction, and I can go in confluence with that section, I can stimulate this by using the flow between my hands. That's a real encapsulation, bird's eye view of what we do. But we're here to relax tissues by relaxing the energy field. When we do, we release the emotions that are contracting that field. This held what other people would call negative information, which is stored in our field, which what we refer to as biofield, because it's a bioaffective field. Now, let me just pop this one up. Anybody seen anything like this recently? Everybody who has ever looked into chakras has seen this basically. From the root, next one up, our lower dantian in orange. I'm just choosing some colors. Some of you may attach some meaning to that. It's not necessary. The yellow one is basically our solar plexus, and then around our heart, the green, and at our throat, blue. Each one of those holds the particulars of who we are and what we are trying to avoid. A life well lived is allowing ourselves to feel everything, to enjoy the lessons that are waiting for us there. If I said, guess what? You are just like planet Earth. Planet Earth, actually, there are some people who think Sedona is the fire center for the Earth's body. I'm not quite sure about that, but there are certainly vortexes of energy around here. Well, let's take a look at the world itself. Were you ever in school and they pulled down a chart and said, here's planet Earth, and here are the magnetic fields that go out the North Pole, stream out into outer space, and then re-enter at the South Pole. And the farther away from Earth you get, the less effective or dense that is, but right close to Earth, it's up the middle, through the Earth, around the outside, and what does that sound like? It's a toroid. If we look from outer space at the top of the North Pole, guess what we'd see? That. So how do we translate that into what looks like us? There you are. One of the strongest flows in our biofield is our spinal flow. Up through the center of our being, out through our heads, around, and then back in through the base of the torso, and this circulating toroid again of energy. So I'm going to not share my screen now. I think I just push that. Okay, there I am. I hope that was somehow interesting, because what I want to really convey to you is that there are options for moving on this path you're on more efficiently by accessing your authentic strengths and your authentic self. There are options for you to make peace with all that has been holding you back, because truly, what is holding you back besides yourself? We've all said, the problem is not the problem. The problem is our response to the problem. So what is it that dictates our response? Always. It's our level of comfort. Do I enjoy this? Do I not enjoy this? Am I going to allow myself to feel this or not? Most of us, most all of us, not all of us. I know one person that's on this call that I would not say this about. But or what most of us count as our personality as we have grown up, we've said, oh, since I don't want to feel that, I'm going to put on my protective mask. I'm going to make a shield. I need to protect myself from this one. Therefore, you become an adult. You have all these masks. You have a protective shield around you. And I would say this, most of us, what counts as our how we interact with people, it's a series of defense mechanisms that have long outlived their usefulness, but they're still within our fields. We're carrying them around as negative information. We're carrying them around as contractive response that we really don't want to have to deal with. In the meantime, they're affecting our relationships. They're affecting our ability to make a living. They restrict our mobility, our mental acuity, because in fact, if I feel happy, I have one set of rationale and how logic makes sense. Have you ever been angry and said something to the person that you thought you loved, and you started accusing them, and you did this, and you did this, and I'm angry because, and then 5 minutes later you say, how could I possibly have thought those things? How could I have said that to this person that I love? Oh, and now you're filled with regret. Oh, no, it's more layers. So depending on what emotion is up for you, that dictates how you process information. It's in our best interest to clear our field so that we can be authentic, so that we can bring our best selves to whatever we are doing. So that the sense of loneliness is not just, oh, I'm 6 years old, I'm 2 years old, I was left too long in my crib, and I don't even remember what went on, but I know I was mistreated and I'm lonely and it's horrible. When in fact, right now, you have every option for picking up the phone, having a Zoom call, doing what's necessary, walk down the hall, say hello to somebody, or say, you know what? I'm complete within myself. I'm okay. I'm fine. There's nothing to get tweaked. Ask yourself, is there something inside that's tweakable? Which means, is there a bit of a judgment when you fell off the bike and the other kids started making fun of you, that you say, oh, I'm not good at that, or somehow I got shamed, or something happened where you just internalized it, you have embodied it. How? Because it's an irregularity in your field, and your body responds to it, your organs respond to it, and the vibrations of that irregularity affect your brain, its neurotransmitters, and how chi flows through your physical body. All because you got resonated by somebody. And it's not theirs. It's yours. It's mine. It's ours, because we have not dealt with it yet. So SHEN therapy is that therapy that allows us to finally, willingly, consciously move into the reality of, okay, what have we been holding on to? How can we move forward so that I can make progress in my career, in my art, in my family relationships, in my relationship to finances? It's all resonance. We're tweaking with other people when we're basically here to walk each other home. But what we're actually doing is, oh, well, you did this, I did this, you're making me feel that. Well, well, I'll be just nice and not deal with it. Meanwhile, everything's dying inside. For those who are fed up with being inauthentic, for those who look forward to a vibrant life of being not unattached, just being with what is. Not living in the pain of the past, hoping your past will change. Of course, it will not. And not worrying about the future because it hasn't happened yet. There's nothing you can do. There's just now. How can I be so aware of now that that's all that counts? I need to get all that other material out, resolved, released, dissipated. There are many ways to do it. Most of them are suppressive, and just put it away on the back shelf until the next time it gets tweaked. SHEN is one of those that allows us to actually lift it to the surface, re-experience it possibly, but in a way that is so enlightening and improving to who we are that we welcome it, because finally we allow it to go over the top of the bell curve. We experience it fully and it's gone. We don't think our way to it. We experience it from within our torsos. Breathe in through your spine, deep and wide. Breathe in through your spine, deep and wide. Do that 3 times and hold the third one for just a few moments before you release it, and then respond or speak from within, not from up top. That's a little clue. Hopefully that will help you. Now, I am going to send each of you, you have all registered, and so we have your name, and we have a way of at least graciously wanting to give you a gift, and we promise gifts, and hopefully some of this information has been that, and Aliel's about to give you an incredible gift. Hopefully you have put some water next to you, whether it's a glass or a container of water. She's about to do something on resonance that will change the way you look at a lot of things. But I'm going to send you 2 items. One is a kind of an online brochure that we put together about SHEN therapy. And then one that also has to do with the ancient background of SHEN therapy, how it reunites ancient and modern understandings, because ancient wisdom and quantum physics are identical in so many ways. We just have to begin to understand it. So, and there's also an article I wrote, this was back in 1989. I wrote an article which I still pass out because once I said it, I can't say it any better than that. So I'm going to send you 2 things having to do with SHEN. After that, your privacy laws prevent me from doing anything else unrelated to this evening. But it's my pleasure to send these links and documents to you. It'll be wonderful. Aliel, I have gone on and on, but you do have the rest of the time to please
All right.
give us your expertise, because I know a little bit about it.
All right. We have so many things on the back burner that we'd love to share with you, all of these gifts. But in the interests of the parameters of time, what do we do when something's held in our bodies and we don't want it? So I'm going to pause now. I had sent Holly some slides, and Holly, hopefully you are co-hosting. Would you put up the black and white slide? What Russ didn't talk about is what happens after we've dealt with what's been held inside of us. It's spoken of as a release, but is it really a release? A little bit about me is that since I was born, I've had some incredible teachers. Number one was nature herself. Both my parents were into psychology and healing, and lots and lots of different things were formed. And I always wondered, how is it that healing works? And I just didn't have the science or the training until I started to work with Dr. Rulin. This is something that she spoke about, and so did Russ, that the information that we have, take off my glasses to read it actually, the information we have in our vibrational field determines our life. Okay, Holly, you can take that one off and wait a moment on the next one. So what is healing? Some of us are healers. Some of us are physical healers with like massage therapy or some kind of hands-on work, acupuncture perhaps. Others of us here are do Reiki or some kind of biofield therapeutics where we send energy to that other person. And then what happens in our knowingness? We just have a sense that this is what I need or this is what the other person needs. When we are healing, are we eliminating all of the negative information? Or are we taking negative information and doing some kind of transformation that turns it to positive? Well, according to science, Tao science at least, it's neither one. When we're healing, we are changing when we are healing, negative information is changed to positive information. And how do we do that? Negative information is the lack of connection. Connection to what? Connection to source, connection to our own being, connection to somebody who is our brother, our sister that we may not realize. And Taoism says everything is alive. Everything is a brother and sister. We are related to everything. And living in the time that we do, we have something called the World Wide Web, which is a very concrete or graphic example of how everything is connected. All right. So right now, I want to give people a chance who have just come on. If you haven't already, you want to have a water, preferably in a container with a top that you can take off and on, and not a lot, about 12 ounces to anywhere between 6 and I'd say 12 ounces. You also want a separate glass. It can be a small one, about the size of a shot glass. So Russ and I will first of all check and see if anybody has any questions, and then we'll go on to a series of gifts. So does anybody have a question about healing, about what they've heard, about SHEN, about Russ or I? Any questions? And just unmute yourself and ask away if you have any. Okay. All right. So SHEN works by resonance, and so does healing. As the healer, or as the herb, or as the awareness becomes a higher and higher frequency of vibration, we end up by connecting even deeper. That frequency and vibration raises, and what's been negative is then healed and becomes part of our connection. So not so long ago, people began to talk about a shadow side and about purification and about detoxing and so forth. And some of us have recognized that in what seems to be a negative situation, there is often a gift and awareness. And that's actually what happens in SHEN therapy. When something lifts and dissipates, this astonishing feeling of well-being, or I'm feeling my heart in a way that I never felt before, or an insight occurs, usually on the table, and very often within the next day or two after you've received a session. And sometimes things that were a problem just go away. There doesn't seem to be any kind of correlation between. Sometimes in SHEN, one layer lifts, and then a day or two later, another layer comes up. So so what do we do when something happens that is painful? As Russ explained, we contract. That's what happens to us physically. It has emotional ramifications as well. But what also happens is that sometimes instead of feeling, often instead of feeling. We do a lot of things that compensate. We could numb ourselves out. We can overindulge in what's the word now? When we watch a whole series on TV and don't even take a break. Other kinds of compensations. They're like doors we go out of instead of focusing inside or saying, what am I really wanting? What do I really need in my life? We might overeat. We might, as I said, binge watch TV. We can go out the door of drugs. We can go out the door of being overwhelmed and just it's too much and just withdraw completely. Lots and lots of doors. I've got a list of about 12 or 14, and then I stopped making a list of that. But when we realize that everything and everyone has a vibration, and that for millennia, people have gone to herbalists and doctors, and they've been given chemicals or they've been given diluted this or that. And why does that have an effect on us? Well, everything has a vibration, and that vibration can either impede or it can enhance our own frequency, our own fields. Let's see, I guess it was in 2000, so 23 years ago, I began to do a formal study of flowers and flower essences. I was a research practitioner for the Flower Essence Society, where I could request the essence of a flower, and they would send it to me without any explanation of what it could do. And I was to use my intuition, use it with clients, and then write back my findings. And when they had enough people correlating the same thing, then they made it public. So what I discovered is that flowers, they're the exaltation of a plant. A plant produces a flower when its conditions are close to ideal. And it's like the pinnacle of a plant is to produce a flower or flowers. And that each plant knows what its heaven is like. It knows the best conditions. And you have flowers with a very wide tolerance that grow in a lot of different conditions. And then you have what are called hothouse flowers that require very specific kinds of conditions before they'll even grow, let alone flower. And that each plant has a knowingness that Paracelsus called the doctrine of signatures. It was discernible when you sat down and meditated to listen to the soul of the plant. It was discernible when you looked at the shape of the plant and how it grew and the colors and what time of year it would put out a flower, if it was going to put out a flower, and what color was the flower and what was the shape. So there's a whole education about how to look at flower essences. But I learned kind of a different way. Yes, I went and I studied directly with the founders of the Flower Essence Society. Yes, I went and studied with the daughter of the assistant who inherited the Bach house, the Bach flower remedies, and on and on and on. But the real communication came from listening to the soul of the plant. Now, years ago, I was given a particular empowerment by an ascended master. And he told me that I could, that the empowerment he was giving me would allow me to put health into water. I didn't know what it meant at the time. That was 20 years ago, and I've got a clearer picture of what he was meaning. So what we're going to do now is to open our awareness into how a flower might speak to us. Now, each of them carries a different kind of energy medicine, a different kind of medicine. And so when I listen for a flower for an individual, sometimes it's a bouquet of 3 or 4, sometimes it's just one flower. So one of the things I checked was that this recording is going to be available to be replayed with our contact information. So if you have questions, you can contact us further. But this gift that I'm about to give can only be done live. I checked in with guidance. This will be the second time I've given out to a group of people. Usually when I am giving a session of Shen and Tao Hands, sometimes a flower will speak and then I'll make a flower essence for my particular client. Now I have about 300 actual flower essences. When you speak to the general public, you can buy Bach flowers over the counter. You can buy FES, Flower Essence Society, and dozens of others, and they're all good and they all work. However, they work a lot better when you connect with the soul of the flower, the soul of the plant, before you take it in. And just as we did at the beginning and did a say hello, there's an acknowledgement, there's an appreciation, there is a knowingness of what the flower looks like. So I'm going to ask Holly to put up the flower. And there were about 20 that spoke that wanted to be a part of this. And so through meditation and guidance, this is the one that we're going to do. So I'd like you to look with what we call soft eyes. So that means just what Russ spoke about. Breathe in wide and deep, and notice that as you breathe, your spine expands, and that when you exhale, it relaxes each vertebra. And bring yourself into your belly. So let yourself, with these soft eyes, kind of feel what kind of a feeling this you get from this flower, what passes through your awareness when you let yourself just kind of notice. Okay, Holly, the next one, please. Okay, and the one after that. Yeah. This is the California poppy, and it has a very particular vibration. And each flower, each plant has that energy medicine. And through a good deal of trial and error, the Flower Essence Society, the Bach flower here in Oregon, we have Aisha, I might be pronouncing her name wrong, Aisha Lerner, who has beautiful, beautiful flowers, power of flowers. And all of those are good. So the California poppy, let's see, there's one more screen to show if you would. This was Russ in a field of California poppies. They grow close to the earth and they have a very unique, they can grow in very poor soil and they like a lot of drainage. And if you look at this is an old, a picture that's a little bit faded. Yes, Sharon, sometimes body work does bring emotions to the surface. And one of the things that Russ and I are particularly interested in is connecting with body workers and therapists and show them some things they can do when emotions come up. We're hoping to have a training probably in the fall and train up some more SHEN therapists. Okay, so back to the California poppy. You'll notice that it forms like a funnel. And what it does is it helps you, well, I'll wait on that for a moment. You'll notice it forms kind of a funnel, and all that funnel goes into the stem. The top of it is very open to the sun, to Father Sky, to solar energy, to heaven. And the rest of the plant is funneling down into the stem, which will bring nourishment up from the roots to the flower, but also is bringing that solar energy down and into the plant itself. It does a couple of very interesting things. I'm going to pause for a moment. Would anybody like to share as they look at the California poppy, if they got any sense of any message from the plant itself or any sense of what it can do? And you don't have to raise your hand, just unmute and speak. Paula, Russ, anyone? Terry? What does your guidance tell you about this flower?
For me, what I noticed was as soon as the first picture came up, I felt what I call my heart opening. It was just an expansion and
Yes,
feeling of joy.
yes, yes, yes. Uh, Sharon says it makes her feel happy and bright. Excellent. And you'll notice it's very seldom to see a single poppy growing. They usually are fields and fields of them. So it's an ideal plant. It's an ideal flower essence for connection. There are some others that are also extremely good for connection. Some that dissipate our past experiences of people being against us. The California poppy is very joyful. Okay. All right, we'll show, hold on that very last slide, which we will, oh no, actually, let's do that last slide now. This is a slide of a couple of kind of mantras or meditations that Patricia Kaminsky, who was one of the founders of the Flower Essence Society, when she meditated, this is what she got from the poppy. I seek the true gold of self-knowledge. I find the world by looking within to find myself. I stand in the golden balance of my heart. And this is a book that she and her partner wrote. It's probably one of the best books on flower essences. And I'll put that in the email that we and Russ are sending. But the positive qualities, and the reason I like this book is she talks about the relationship of how the soul can learn and what the soul might need, and what negative information in your soul might be helped by a particular plant. And there's like 103 different flowers, including the Bach flowers in this, plus the Bach flowers. Okay, so the positive qualities are finding spirituality within one's heart, balancing the light and the love within yourself, and developing an inner center of knowing. Okay. It can help with a whole bunch of things, which I'm not going to go into now, kind of wanting to honor our time together. Okay, so what I'd like everybody to do is to pour a tiny bit of the water that they brought into that glass, maybe just a shot's worth, just enough to kind of take a sip with, but you're going to sip from the glass. So bring that water, take a sip of the water and hold it in your mouth. And just kind of notice what it tastes like, what it feels like. And then let yourself swallow and notice how far down your torso you can feel the sensation of that water. Great. Okay. All right. And now I would like you to put one hand over your heart, the left hand, left palm over your heart, and the right palm over your belly button. And close your eyes. And I'd like you to say hello to the soul of the California poppy. And while you're doing on that, I'm going to speak to the soul as well. Thank you so much. What I did is using the, I wanted to call it a channelship, but I was corrected and told that I'm a chalice, that I can receive a particular energy. So I used my chalice ship to connect with both the water and the soul of the California poppy and ask the poppy to imbue itself in everybody's individual water so that the essence, the soul medicine that poppy carries is now in the water that you have. There's no preservative in the water. There's nothing else but the soul of the California poppy. And there's one thing else I wanted to remember. Yeah. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to do something similar, to pour a tiny bit of that water into the shot glass, the new imbued water. And then take some and hold it in your mouth. And when you put it in your mouth, connect again with the say hello to the soul of the poppy, the appreciation that you have. And notice if the water tastes any different, if there's anything different about it. So go ahead and take a sip of that water into your mouth. And when you feel ready, take a swallow and notice what it feels like going down and how far you can feel the sensation of the water this time. Okay. All right. So would anybody like to share what they experienced when they took the water the first time and the second time?
Yeah, when I took the second of the water after you had infused it in my mouth, I immediately felt I'm not proficient at naming the emotions, but there was a difference. I mean, just knew there was a difference, something else going on. And then when I swallowed it, it wasn't like drinking carbonated water, but it was bubbly. I don't know how to describe that except that way.
Well, you connected very much with the joy that poppy brings, the joy of being in one's heart, of balancing and finding that spirituality within the heart of finding, I would say feeling more than finding. And so you can sip this water. It will last a couple of days, and you can sip it as often as you'd like. And you'll be taking more and more of that high frequency that the soul of this particular plant knows. And as I mentioned, and as you can discover yourself, just soft eyes when you're looking at a flower, you can get a sense of the kind of soul medicine that a flower brings. All right, anybody else? Who do we have online? Because I don't see a list of participants since I'm working from a cell phone.
Hello.
See. Hello.
Hi, Stanley here.
Hi there.
I just want to share the first sip, it went down like my chest area. And then the second sip, I really felt the water like fresher and going down and through my belly. And I got the feeling of like sunshine and happiness.
Yay, wow, Shenli, that's a lot. My gosh, I'm not even going to guess what time it is in Australia, but welcome.
It's afternoon here, so it's good. Okay.
Oh, okay, so it's, yeah, very, very good. All right, who else would like to share?
Hey, Aliel, it's Holly. I
Hi,
had
Holly.
a very similar experience to Sunly where, first of all, it was joyful, but the first time that I drank the water, it only went to about, the diaphragm area. But the second time it went all the way down and I could feel a cool sensation in my belly, and it just like the whole, it was just joyful. It was just a joyful, bright, happy feeling. So yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. You are so welcome. That was how the gift that that particular master gave me seems to have manifested, is that I can boost the effect that a flower essence would have if you bought an over-the-counter one. And then I discovered I could actually ask the soul of the flower to go into the water without going and taking the blossoms the way
Hey,
that
Leo.
flower essence are traditionally made. Yes.
Yeah, I've done this countless times with you, and it's always astounding to me. But this is the first time we've done poppy. And
Yes.
the first water was just water. Okay, it went down and dissipated. I wasn't really aware of how far down or where it went or anything. The second one, it wasn't cool, it wasn't bubbly. For me, it was like someone turned on a hot air fan inside and just and again, as Shinli said, it went deeper, much deeper and wider, but it was hot. It was like the sun got turned on. So you
Well,
surprise
you
me
have,
every time.
well, your soul has some connection, because as you mentioned, when you were coming up from a hummingbird festival, you found this field of poppies, and that third picture was Russ actually in a field, in the vibration, in the frequency. And that's one of the things when we're around a flower, it's emanating a frequency and a vibration. Usually they're clipped. We make a bouquet, we get something from a florist. So they still are emanating, but they're not emanating with a connection. And so when you go and you lay in the meadow with a bunch of flowers around you, or like you did in a field of poppies.
I've got to say, we were coming back from seeing the most astounding hummingbird display I've ever experienced. But Beth Hawkins, who is on this call tonight,
That's
she
right,
took
yes.
that photo, and we were just aghast, agog, gobsmacked, I think they say in the UK, because we couldn't fathom what we were looking at. Fields and fields of California poppies, and in the not too far distance was a kind of a mesa. We have a lot of them here in Arizona, but one side of the mesa, as if it was a waterfall, was covered in gold, and it was all poppies. It was astounding. And so, well, of course, she's a professional photographer, so that photo was taken by one of the best nature photographers the world has produced, and I'm grateful to have her as a dear friend. But and likewise, I took a picture of her, which is now going to go on her book, because the field of poppies was so astounding. It literally affected our fields, our inner fields. And that's the whole concept that we're trying to get across here tonight, that we all resonate one with another, and we both bless each other with joy, or we bless each other by tweaking as yet undealt with areas, and we give each other the opportunity to grow. It's just a different way of looking at it. But I just wanted to jump in and say those poppies were very real, and it felt good sitting in them. What can I tell you?
Well, once again, Source and guidance has directed me to the right the right flower to bring to all of us. If you could have seen me sitting down with all of the flowers, there were literally more than a dozen, 20 of them, all wanting to contribute to everyone who was on this call. I didn't know who was coming on the call. That's why I connected with guidance and said, all right, what's the best single essence to use? All right, I want to honor people's time. And in the email that I'll be sending out, I will, actually, I would love to hear from a few more people before I go into closing. So who else would like to share?
whether about the
experience.
Shen or the poppies or the transfer into the water, the whole concept of that there's actually an anatomy, an understandable, workable anatomy to the biofield, this field that we all are. Any response? I mean, these are kind of mind-blowing concepts. It's hard
Yes, and it's
even
not
to
only
wrap
the
our heads
field
around
that
them
we
sometimes.
are, but the field that everybody is and everything is. And when we recognize that moving through life, we are interacting fields, that's the quantum entanglement, which is a very good thing. I've been using quantum entanglement with some of the beginning clients so that they can understand that what they're feeling is a response to what might have been going on in their parents or their grandparents, as well as if they were in a situation like survived a war. Um, and a lot of healing takes place. But their idea of quantum entanglement is that it brings pain. And when you realize that pain is just an alert that something is looking for your attention, and to know what to do with a contraction, there are so many things. And if you have the good fortune to experience Shen in person, it's blissful. It's not always feel good in the moment because it can stimulate some memories and sometimes in what we call an abreaction, a re-experiencing of something that isn't pleasant. But if that happens on the table, the high frequency of the boosted chi between our hands is bringing it up and out, and it soon leaves. And then what you're left with is this amazing sense of well-being and expansion and so forth. And
Eliel, Pauline has a question.
okay, Pauline, what's your question?
Actually, I wanted to share, if that's okay.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Well, first of all, I really loved when Russ was talking about the donuts, because it's something is easily relatable. It's like the donuts and the Taurus field, because then I know how to connect with what is out there to what is inside of me. So that was that visual, and that donut thing is so very helpful in me understanding what you're talking about with the Shen, because it's a new concept to me, and having a visual and a story helps me to connect. So thank you so much for that.
Oh my goodness, thank you for that
And
sharing.
I also wanted to say thank you for connecting us with the special flower essence of the California poppy, because I've lived in California before, and I really loved when they just come out of nowhere. Even in New Mexico, in Chama, New Mexico, where I used to live, the poppies would just come out, and the energy immediately was joy, the brightness, the connection. And so interesting, when you just flashed the picture, I remembered it. I felt it.
Oh, wow.
And then with the water, at first it was having a hard time coming down my throat and lungs, because I've been having some purification happen lately. But the second time after the connection, it was smooth. It was actually, because I've been feeling so hot, so the coolness
So it was
was the
coolness
one.
for you.
It helped me
Yes.
balance with coolness because of the extreme heat here now in the Philippines where I'm in. It gave me that sense of so that's the best way I can describe it. So I just so appreciate your generosity for both Russ and is it
Aliel.
Aliel.
Think of the Little Mermaid, the woman who plays her in the new Disney movie. Her name is Haley. And so just drop the H, Aliel. And El is Hebrew for of the light. So it's easy to remember, Aliel.
Well, both of you definitely bring so much love and light, and we all appreciate you. And thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts and souls.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have to say you are a visual treat. You're wearing the most beautiful color and combination of shades of that color, and in the way that the silk wraps. And not only were your words beautiful, but the visual of you is so incredibly beautiful. Thank you again for tuning in.
And now that we are at the end and you have all stayed to the end, it's time to offer the one treasure that anybody who left early is not going to be receiving. And that is very simply this. Aliel and I so appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about what has been important to us for 40 years now, and also to encourage you to embark on that inner journey so that your whole experience of this time around can be even more deeply enriched. We'd like, for whatever services, whether it's SHEN, whether it's the two-handed SHEN of an individual practitioner, or Aliel and I work together as four-handed SHEN also, and that's kind of an unbelievable experience. Terry knows, Paula knows, several people who know about that. But we would like to offer you a $25 discount on whatever service it is, including the water transmissions, whatever it might be. If you will make that appointment and schedule that before June 30th. We have until the end of the month. So if you would like that, and again, we can do this remote as well as in person. So I'll be coming to Portland 21st through the 27th of this month. But if anybody wants to use that, it is yours. We honor your time and appreciate so much the energy that you individually brought to this gathering. Thank you so much. It's been a joy to be with you. Eliel?
I'm going to do one quick request, and that is, would Holly or whoever has the information, would you put up our contact information? So it'll be a few hours to a day before I send out an email with that information. So if you put that up, so that everybody can see that in the chat or however. All right.
Ariel,
Yeah, Paula.
This is Paula. There are quite a few comments in the chat, and since you're on your cell phone, you're not seeing them. I would love to go ahead and read them to you.
Thank you.
And actually, Diliana had a question a while back, which is, yes, how do you allow and feel the stuffed emotions?
Okay.
How do you allow and feel
let
the
me take
stuffed?
that one. That is a good one. First of all, you don't have to worry about allowing or feeling the stuffed emotions. The world itself will provide lots and lots of stimuli. When somebody has gone out what I call a door of compensation, and they've numbed themselves to not feeling something that's within them, then something like SHEN therapy, something like any of the purification, any kind of therapy that's actually a higher vibration is going to bring up that material. Like the standard, what I often say is, a massage therapist is working on a client, all of a sudden emotions come up because they've actually moved the field, they've moved the muscles, and things that are held then become up into your awareness. Now, how you release it, that's that's the job of both what Russell and I do, but it's also a progression of growth that everybody undergoes, an evolution, if you will. All right, Russ, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's for me, it's a fairly simple thing. It's the idea that it looks like a brick wall. It's hard. How can I get through it? What do I do to make it easier on myself? Well, within SHEN, when things come forward and we become aware of them and we inhabit them fully, it ends up being a very easy experience. Sometimes the body jerks a little bit on the table. Sometimes there's what was fearful ends up being a giggle. You mean I was so upset about that? So a past memory will come forward. Sometimes it's symbolic, sometimes it's the actual memory, but sometimes you have actually dealt with it, but it's still held in your field and it just gone. So it's not a difficult thing. How do I do it? Well, you allow it. You just allow it. Allow yourself to move into it, and within the spirit of working with two people or three people, if it's both Aliel and I, we're trained to support that release, if you will. All of these are there wanting to break free. This negative information, that's emotions, it doesn't want to be there. It's as if it's an entity thinking of it. It's the body's trying its best to get it out of our systems. And we just keep hanging on to it no matter what. So the actual process of letting go can bring tears, bring recognition, but generally, whether immediately or following that soft, gentle recognition, it's total joy. It's sunshine. It's release. It's re-empowerment. There's a word we don't use much anymore, but it's critical. To empower ourselves, we need to release, let it go, dissipate, and then suddenly all the stuff that's underneath comes to the surface. And guess what's underneath? Confidence, joy, peace, all of those good things that, the peace that passeth understanding, for anyone who has a religious background. Well, it's waiting. And as long as we are angry, we're holding on to fear or shame or guilt or sadness. Drop the anger. Find out what's underneath that anger and then live it. Let it have its full expression. If you do that with flower essences, with someone who understands the process and can support you through it, that's what SHEN is all about. Even those of us who are far along in our journey with Tao find that there are sticking points. Why is it that this is not happening? Well, let's go in and find out and joyously come out the other end. It's not that scary. Paula, is there just one more? I know we're running over, but.
Oh, if anybody needs to leave, feel free. There's a few. I'll just run through them really quick. Most of them is our thoughts on the water.
Okay.
So Gavin said it opened the heart, but as it is close to Mother Earth, brings powerful sense of grounding. Ileana said, wow, first time got stuck at the solar plexus, second time went all the way to the base of the torso. Gavin again said, felt it go smoother and deeper with a sense of belonging more.
And he just typed something at the very bottom, which was an incredible namaste. Back to you, Gavin. Thank you. Okay, and other comments, Paula?
Arlene said the first time I took a sip, the water just normally went down. The second time, the water stayed on my heart area. So seeing how water can stay for a while and made my heart feel good and refreshing. Thank you. Mary Louisa said, I felt a light bubbling in my mouth with the sip of the water. I think that's everything.
Wonderful. I get the feeling Mary Lou really liked the toroid donuts description also. Just a feeling.
Well, listen.
Wonderful.
Look in your email within the next 48 hours, and there'll be a gift waiting for you with several important links and bits of information, and a reminder that if you are on this call tonight, or if someone listens to it and decides they want to, we will honor the $25 off of any of our services if it's initiated by the end of this month, June 30th. Thank you so much. Now, we're going to do a little bit of a close. not the invocation, but I assume the outvocation. Okay, so a bit of thanks. And so once again, if you join us in just bowing your head, putting your hands in whatever prayer position you wish that feels comfortable. Dear divine Tao and source, dear all of heaven's committees and all saints, angels, all the ascended masters, all our spiritual brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers of all planets and all galaxies, all universes, we thank you so much for joining us tonight and allowing our minds to be freely open so that we can hear and listen and sense that there's so much more inside, so many gifts that we can give to ourselves. Truly, we understand that this journey that we're on is the destination, and that the only challenge we really have is clearing the path by getting out of our own way. We thank you so much and ask you now to bless us as we move forward with the rest of our days and our evenings, and we look forward to joining together again, and for all of your endowments to us, forgivenesses that you have granted us, the joys that we feel, and the sense that we can move forward, that there is always an answer, and it's always inside of us. We thank you, and we say together, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
We love you, we love you, we love you. Tao. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night. Aloha.
Great to be with you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Russ. Thank you, Ariel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mwah.
Thank you.